guys come up on stage. First and foremost, we do have a microphone here in the middle. So if you guys want to ask questions, please use it. We love to hear your questions. Next, flash photography. Please, no flash photography. If you could just turn off the flashes on all your phones and cameras and such, that'd be great. But please take as many pictures as you like. We like to see those up on Facebook and Twitter and all of that. Next, if you have any... I saw that. Next, if you have a phone call or anything like that, if you could just take it out there, and if you could put your phones on vibrate and silent and such. And lastly, yeah, I see. FlipON.TV, we are recording this live right now. Everything I'm saying is going on right now. Okay, now it is. So every room right now is being recorded, except for that one a few minutes ago. So I'm going to get out of the way so these guys can get started. Enjoy the show.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Gerry Duggan. This is Brian Posehn.
Fuck that podium. Are there babies here? That baby knows how to say fuck now.
So before we get to...
Oh, now these people can't see us because we're hidden behind the podium. God damn it.
Would it kill us to stand?
We wrote this before. Yeah, this is not improvised, by the way. This is Comedy Writing 101. So we should come up with a funny scene where we come in the podium.
We're going to keep trying different seats. We'll come down and sit with you. My name is Gerry Duggan. This is Brian, like I said.
Yeah,
I'm going to just tell you really quickly about our backgrounds. I wrote a little bit on Attack of the Show. We're both writing Deadpool together. He wrote Mr. Show. Ask us about anything. We'll probably tell you a little bit about how we met and how we work, and if we don't cover it, ask it.
Yeah, and like our histories of like how we got into comedy too. I mean,
yeah.
Like,
well, you start. You go first. You were here first.
I'm worried about the podium. God damn it. Let's see. Well, as far as comedy writing, I got in. That's what this thing's called, right? Like and the whole day I was like, who else is on this panel? And he's like, it's just us. And I'm like, really? I guess.
Well, how many of you guys want to be comedy writers or
is that
interested?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the...
Well, for me, I started writing jokes way before I ever thought of being a stand-up. I just would write them, and I would try things out on my friends, and then people were like, hey, you should do stand-up, and I was like, oh, okay, I never thought of that. And then once I decided I was going to do that, I got really serious. I couldn't get into a comedy club. I was 20 at the time. And I called around. I found all the stand-up clubs where I lived, and I couldn't get in. And so I waited. And then the week I turned 21, I got very drunk in a parking lot, loaded up with 5 minutes of jokes that I had written over those last couple of months. And then that was the first time up, and then I loved it. But then from there, I kind of learned to do sketch writing and screenplays and TV. And all that just by reading it and doing it, really. Like, I never took a class. Maybe I should have. But the first thing I did, started early 90s before I got hired on Mr. Show. I was living in San Francisco with a couple other stand-ups. And stand-up was dying. And we hadn't been on TV yet. And me and I was living with Patton Oswalt at the time. And... yeah, funny bastard. And we both started doing this. We just started writing sketches and shooting sketches, and this is pre-internet, pre-YouTube, and we were like, well, we'll just shoot them and then show them to people. And we would do live shows, and then we'd show these sketches that we had shot. I did like a really early Heineken parody, a Heineken ad that was on in the early 90s, where I think they played Hootie and the Blowfish in it. It was just horrible. And it was about how friendships are formed through drinking, and I was like, that's not a good thing to advertise. So we just literally, I took this idea from this Heineken ad and then just took it to crazy extremes. And that was like one of the first things I did, and I just did it on my own. Like, and then having that kind of stuff, when I moved to LA, I already had shit to show people. And I think that's the most important thing that I've learned is to have stuff ready. You know, when people want to see what you do, whether it's a spec or what, don't wait till the meeting and go, I've got some ideas. You know, have all that stuff.
Yeah, you have to do it yourself. If you want anybody to pay you to do something or to be taken seriously at it, you have to be willing to do it yourself and, you know, be prepared to fail. And from that, you'll get better. I think everyone's sort of obsessed with, oh, epic fail this, epic fail that. It's like if you don't do something and
everything
fuck it up, you're never going to know how to do it right, I think.
Yeah,
so.
Everything I saw in the early 90s of all my friends that became successful later, it's guys that were just doing it. Tenacious D were just doing it. They were doing it in front of 10 people, and then it became 20 people, and then it became 50 people, and they would just do that. Mr. Show, we got the deal from just doing sketches around town and finding spaces in LA. And like I said, again, I mean, there's way before. Like people now, you have things.
Now it's easier.
You can use YouTube, and you can make your own channel, and you can show people how funny you are. Then we had to go, hey, we're old-timey putting on a show, you know, and please tell somebody you know that knows an agent, you know, and that was kind of how we all, or my whole group, got started.
Yeah, and now we're writing Deadpool. I don't know if Marvel Comics readers or we.
There's
also
more
have some
people here than there were at the Marvel panel we did today. Way more, but that So I'll go back to how we met and how we became writing partners. He was working at a comic book shop.
We
in
met
LA.
at a comic book shop, and you were working on a pilot with Patton, and you asked me to help work behind the scenes. One thing led to another. We started writing, and that's when we had a crazy idea for Santa Claus After the Apocalypse.
Yeah, that was our post 9/11 idea.
Yeah, so we wrote a great screenplay after 9/11 when everyone felt the world was ending.
And it was pretty soon after, and we were playing Halo, and I was very, very high, and you had this idea. You were like, all I have is like Mad Max Noir, or no, Santa Claus Noir. Put it like a handgun in Santa Claus's hand, and you had like gone to Brazil or some shit and came home with that idea, right?
Yeah, it was the
Radiohead
other side
or
of the
some
planet.
shit,
I went to Spain, but yes.
So
It's
Brazil,
true. It's true.
Spain.
They talk different.
Right. But you came in with this idea, and the way a lot of, in my experience, ideas become better is through just spitballing stuff. I mean, one of the things I learned from, it's still, in everything I've ever done, Bob Odenkirk is the smartest, funniest person I've ever worked with. And if you don't know him from Mr. Show, now he's on Breaking Bad, where he's an amazing actor. But I learned from him of there are bad ideas, but you have to give bad ideas a second. And if you look at bad ideas long enough, you can turn them into good ideas, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that his thing was a bad idea, but we had a great idea from just kind of taking the core of this thing of Santa Claus with a gun, and then we went to we kind of did the Quentin Tarantino thing of throwing all these influences in a blender of us just going, okay, we love Clint Eastwood movies, we love the spaghetti westerns, we love Mad Max. We love short people humor. Looking around, so like any midgies? Hi. I'm a giant. We're mortal enemies. But that kind of stuff was like, okay, we'll get the jokes from writing funny elves, and we'll have Santa Claus be drunk and just all this stuff, and that just came from things that make us laugh and things that we like and throwing them all in. With Deadpool now, it's the same kind of thing where we're throwing things in a blender. If you're not reading the book, you should.
Why not?
No, but what we're doing, we're taking these big influences on us. Big Trouble in Little China is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
And it's in there, not to where John Carpenter can sue us, but it's an influence. And I think that's the thing about whether you're funny or you're writing straight screenplays, you know, as if you're a fan of Quentin, his influences, and I know he took a lot of flack in the beginning of straight up stealing moments. I try to never do that, and I don't think he does, but I think for me, my greatest ideas have come from things that I love and kind of trying to do my spin on them, you know.
Yeah.
Where did I go?
Well, no, you know, so once you've got the script, then that's you know, a first draft, and you have to be willing, I think, to sort of go through and go, this joke that I love doesn't fit here now, and you have to be rough on yourself. And when you put this out there, you have to be willing, I think, to get kicked around a little bit by your friends.
Well, no one made our movie. We wrote The Last Christmas as a screenplay, and we took it around. Even my agent was like,
no, thank you.
I love you, but this I don't know what to do with. And I'm like, you're awesome. Take 10% of nothing, you dick. And so then we decided, it kicked around for a couple of years.
I think it was like a revenge comic. Out of like, we wanted to put this out there, we believed in it, so we did it ourselves, and that's, I guess, a big part of the message.
Where I'm trying to get to is, then we decided, hey, let's go to Image Comics, let's put our own money in, let's pay an idiot friend of ours, Rick Remender, to draw it, or draw it the way he talks, and and we decided, you know, that we'll do that. And then we paid inkers and we paid colorists, and we put our own money into it. We still haven't made any money back, but it's out there. And now people can see it and go, oh, that's the way it's supposed to look. And as opposed to it just being this, you know, this screenplay idea that just sits on a shelf. I mean, to me, that was enough now to have this comic. And that's the end of that idea until...
And, you know, it is...
Until Bruce Willis says he'll play a drunk Santa Claus. Get that going on Kickstarter.
But it's easier now. Technology, it's all on your side. If you have a great idea and some partners and a little bit of art or whatever it is you're doing, kickstart it. If you can do it yourself and go the Lonely Island route, you put it on YouTube, and, you know, you will find an audience that you guys don't...
Yeah, you have a lot of advantages that Grandpa didn't have. Grandpa Comedy over here.
Do it yourself.
We had to find a space.
No, but really.
And get somebody to run the lights. And then a curtain lady to make the curtain out of tears. I didn't drink before this panel. Oh, that's just in the holy shit. Chekhov in the elevator. Chekhov.
Brian has a delayed reaction. He just realized we were in an elevator with Chekhov.
Chekhov. Yeah. I'm letting you in on my thought process.
Yeah.
He asked us why we weren't drinking before our panel, and I'm like, I don't know, Chekhov, but I.
Well, but that's how it was done. Like when I was a kid and I saw Scotty, he was like falling off the stage. Should we take a few questions while we think of what else we should do to fill the time? Captain Kirk, do you or
yeah?
It's Captain Pike, actually.
Pike, my bad. Jesus. Hey, the lights are in my eyes. There's a lot of lens flare.
Shouldn't you be in a wheelchair?
Yeah, why aren't you bleeping
in that
blooping?
machine? Yeah.
Bloop, bloop, bloop.
2 quick questions.
Sure.
One's for Brian. What's your favorite pizza place? And 2, me and my girlfriend are wondering if we can get some of that candy in the glass jar. Is that all right?
Oh my God, those are shitty questions.
You were first in line to ask those questions.
Before the
like,
panel started, I was like, this guy really wants to break into comedy. Oh my God.
Come get your candy.
Yeah. My favorite pizza place is Sizzle Pie in Portland, Oregon. Yeah. I wear their T-shirts all the time until I can no longer wear them from eating too many Sizzle Pies. I have to upgrade to 4X pretty soon. Oh, 4X. Next.
Yeah, you're very famous for being best friends with Patton Oswalt. Yep, that's the reason.
Thanks, dude.
No, sorry. You guys are famous for being best friends.
What?
You guys are famous for being best friends to each other. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
So-
yeah.
You're doing this. Like, what else is going on when
well,
they're together?
I don't know. I haven't. I've heard some things.
He's the bottom, okay?
makes
If that's what you're asking, clearly I'm a muffin top. I mean, look at me.
You were talking about how you guys live together. in
They
San
look like
Francisco.
master blast.
I prefer licking Yoda on Dagobah.
Right.
I
Okay.
carry him around on my back, and he just yells at me and hits me with a tiny cane. And I learn things from him.
No, he makes you a better
Yeah.
runner.
Yeah. I hope he's watching.
So,
His wife boosted him up to the computer.
well, you were
He's wearing
saying,
an outfit he got from Build-A-Bear. Anyway,
so you were saying you guys lived together before both of you were famous. How important do you think it is to have creative, funny people around you?
oh man,
While
that,
you're-
well, yeah. I tell people come up before we decided to do this panel, I get people all the time and saying like, what would you say? Like, what's your main thing?
Yeah.
For me, it's, and it's tough. I mean, you're not gonna know Janine Garofalo
Yeah.
and Bob Odenkirk, and what you might, but I had that, and I got really lucky, and I think that was a huge thing, a part of me finding success, but also getting funnier was from being around funny people. I mean, to me, that was the biggest key. I started in Sacramento, and there were some funny guys, and that helped me get to that next level. And then once I got to San Francisco, I met Patton, and we were talking about River's Edge. And that's how we bonded. And then we got into comic books and started talking about all this other stuff that we loved. But we were with another comic. We were going to a gig together. We were doing this competition together. And this guy had nothing in common with us. But then we started talking about River's Edge. And then we started talking about our favorite serial killers and shit like that. And it was like, oh, wow, we get along. And, this guy's super funny.
And
he,
Ed Gein. Yeah.
yeah. He's a good one. He would make cereal bowls out of heads. Like, a lot of people just look at a head and go, maybe
He's
maybe I'll
crafty.
fuck it. But he would use it later and eat. Yeah. So, no, but I mean that, God, yeah. I digress a lot. But I mean, that's a big thing. And well, because on a lot of levels, you try harder. I mean, Patton and I have like a healthy competition early on. Or not even, it's just like, I feel like we spurred each other to try harder, and that's super important. And then meeting all these other funny people, and meeting Greg Parent, meeting Margaret Cho, meeting all those people, meeting Janine Garofalo, David Cross, and all these people name dropping. But meeting all those people, I probably wouldn't be where I am if I hadn't met, those people in that order that I met them. It is super important. And even if you don't meet those people, it's I think being
But
around other funny people.
Yeah, the point is they
makes
were,
you-
they were your friends, and they made you better. And when you ate shit, it was like for a reason. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like whether you go up and eat shit, or you write something you think is great, and I hand it to my buddy, and he says it's shit. It makes you better. It's what you need to do to get better, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear people talking about, how you have to fail and you have to have those things that,
Right.
keep you going. I'm trying to think of my failures. I don't really have any.
The Army show?
Oh, you son of a bitch. No one even
I
knows.
could go on.
Veronica's closet.
I also, if you're already done, I have a second little thing to tell you.
Yeah, I guess I'm...
Sorry, I'm not sure. I thought you guys were gonna.
No. You guys better drive, because we're not.
Yeah.
The song "Metal by Numbers."
Uh-huh.
It's the reason I cut my hair, because I used to be the big Mexican guy at metal shows with long hair.
I'm sorry if I ruined that for large Mexican
Yeah,
gentlemen.
I I literally, I was like, oh man, there's a song with me in it now. I can't be that guy anymore.
If you watch the video, the guy in the video is not Hispanic.
No.
I couldn't even get a big Mexican guy to play a big Mexican guy. And I live in Los Angeles. Thanks.
The question is, if you were a superhero or supervillain, who would you be and why?
This isn't the Marvel Comics panel.
No.
If it was somebody already existing?
Yeah, or if you wanted to make your own. I don't know.
What? What's everybody saying? What's everybody saying? Somebody have a good one? What? The Tick? Why would it be the Tick? He already exists. Thanks.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I want something when where I can fly and take a shit over something I don't like from super fucking high up. Where it's what?
Okay.
No one what?
I didn't have anything, so you're right.
Thank you. Right.
Yeah, accuracy would be key.
Yeah.
Yay. So wait, so he's also telekinetic? He can kind of direct his poo at
Well,
somebody?
no, but if he can fly and then Duke and you're sort of it's like one of those games in it's like Call of Duty, calling an airstrike.
Call of Duty. Duty. Right, guys? It's just that easy. That's how you write comedy.
You're gonna throw the mic down and leave.
Sit down.
So wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a wrap. Hi.
I didn't know I had to say that, but yeah, I guess. Hey, man.
How are you?
Good. So if I go home and create Flying Crap Man, I'll credit you.
Okay.
Please don't. But go on.
But, guess more of a question about the writing process and writing jokes. Are there any topics that you feel are never appropriate to joke about? Or not,
Well, it's not so much that. I mean, when you're hanging out with funny people, there are no taboos. But when you're trying to sell something, yeah, there are. And there are things. But, I've been real lucky to most of the shows I've worked on, we haven't been noted to death. I mean, when I wrote, I hate to name drop, but if you're not familiar with the other stuff I wrote besides Mr. Show, so Mr. Show was the big one, then Human Giant I worked on, and then I most recently Metalocalypse and Sarah Silverman. And if you watch those shows, we're allowed to do whatever we want.
You got away with
because
murder.
we're not expensive, and none of those shows have a ton of studio notes. When we were on Mr. Show, we were allowed to do whatever we wanted because HBO New York didn't even know we were on the air. It's true. We found out. We went to meetings out there, and they were like, "Who are you guys?" Or we went to these things and these parties, and we would meet the people that were supposedly, advertising our show, and they had no idea who the hell we were. But we had this fan of ours that was the network person out in L.A., and she was the one who just kind of went, well, what I love about the show is you guys will do whatever you want. And we would edit ourselves. We were the one. We never had somebody step in and go, you can't do all this Hitler stuff. We hit a wall on Hitler on our own. We found that wall. You know what I mean? We hit it so many times that we actually, I swear to God, season 4, we had a note that says, no Hitler. Everybody should have that. Somewhere, because seriously, no Hitler, right?
I wish Germany had
And then
no
we-
Hitler.
Yeah. And then we had one that said no gay. It was right next to Hitler. It said no gay and no Hitler. And I feel bad for any gay person that walked into our room and was like, oh fuck, But it was just we had gone to that well too much, and we censored ourselves. We were like, we hit those things. Those things are dead now. Let's move on. Unless you come up with a gay Hitler bit. But
You're in business.
And then Sarah Silverman, same thing. Comedy Central, and eventually why we're no longer on the air is, they let us do whatever we wanted, and they didn't really care. But then we wound up being kind of too expensive for them to do all the stuff. But to answer your question, I think like you gotta know yourself. Like the reason I don't talk about certain things on stage is sometimes I feel like I don't have that angle. I'm not afraid of doing abortion material or something, but until I find a funny one, and I do have one that I did, but once I burn that joke, well, just how people always say that having a baby is a miracle. Having an abortion is a bigger miracle because.
Do tell.
No, well, because having a baby, you take two things and make one thing. That's just math, right? But taking one thing and making it disappear, that's like what a miracle is. Right? But
It's true. It's true.
I'm smart. But yeah, till you find that angle, I think it's, well, for the people that I find funniest, if you look at the guys that are out there or the shows that I find funniest, they censor themselves. Louis C.K. Is amazing, and he can take topics that no one else would touch and find what's funny about those. I hope I answered. I think I answered what I feel about taboo.
I think the abortion material completely answered my question.
Okay, cool.
Thank
Sit
you.
down.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to start off by saying, Brian, I'm a huge fan. My roommate and I watched all your stuff. We love to, smoke some weed and watch all your stuff later.
What?
Weed.
Sorry, it's legal in Washington. So
Yeah, it is. That's awesome.
in the privacy of our home. I was wondering if you could do a shout out for my roommate. He's not here, so I was wondering if you could call him an idiot for not coming to Comic-Con.
Is he high right now?
Probably. His name's Justin.
Are you FaceTiming him?
No, I'm just gonna film it. I'll show him.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
If that's cool, you guys.
Put down the pipe, you idiot. Go outside. All these people came outside. What the fuck?
Sweet. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
So,
Hey, man.
What was your favorite president to write a death for?
Oh, in Deadpool, where the first story arc, if you're not reading, and again,
Shame
they
on
sell
you.
it here.
Yeah.
It's we bring back all the dead presidents. We have a necromancer who decides that what's wrong with the world is that the founding fathers aren't around to keep us straight. So he brings them all back, and
It doesn't go as planned. It's a little Ghostbustery, and Deadpool knocks him down. I liked Reagan. The way that Reagan went was fun.
for me, Kennedy, because we were just writing Quimby. We were writing Mayor Quimby the entire time. A lot of ers and uhs, and it was just the most fun to write, because I've always wanted to write Quimby.
Also, there's a trope on TV tropes called dead baby comedy.
What?
There's a trope on TV tropes called dead baby comedy.
Oh, yeah. There's a website, right? That's the dead. Well,
Dead
thank
baby
you.
comedy.
We did it.
Hi guys.
Hey, man.
This question's actually.
Who are you gonna call?
Yeah, wait.
Bustin' makes me
He's
feel
wearing a
good.
Ghostbusters thing. My 4-year-old would get it. He would be like, "That's pretty." Because we say that all the time. Who you're gonna call? Anyway, what do you got?
I was just gonna say I'm a big fan of yours, especially the times you get paired up with Doug Benson. I'm a big Doug Benson fan, and I was just wondering if there was like a story that kind of sums up your friendship, kind of like that, like a moment where either he just made you fall in stitches, or you made him wet his pants or something.
Oh,
that was something.
with him, we wrote together really early on for a show that you can look up on MTV, it was an old MTV show. You remember how Remote Control was a good show, sort of? And then we did this show after it called Trashed, where it was horrible, but basically what it was you'd go on with your roommate or your friend, and then you'd bring stuff like your surfboard or your favorite record. And if you got a question wrong, we would destroy it. And people stopped coming because we would really destroy their shit. And so Doug and I were two of the only writers in the beginning of the show, and we're writing this show that we don't know. It was my first TV writing experience, and I'm getting paid to sit in a room with this guy and this who I'd barely known. I'd known through stand-up. We opened for Bobcat Goldthwait a couple of times, and that's how I met him, and Jon Stewart, and he totally would try to cock-block me. Benson would. Anyway, where am I going? So, but sitting in the room with him, we came up with that Doug Loves Movies with the Leonard Maltin game. We created that by taking smoking breaks and coming back, not cigarettes, right? And coming back into the room and like killing time. I mean, some of the most fun I've had in comedy writing rooms are coming up with stuff that doesn't make the page. Just kind of sitting around, and Benson and I would just always make each other laugh.
The funniest thing in a writer's room is often followed by, don't write that down.
Yeah, seriously.
That's
the best
funny.
is if you go to LA and you want to get an intern job as like a writer's assistant, you don't have to sign a non-disclosure, but almost every show I've worked on, they basically go, okay, don't be offended by any of the stuff the guys are going to say in the room. Like, do you remember that Friends thing that came up?
it was a big
and you
deal.
remember the girl that tried to sue Friends? Does anybody know this story?
No,
Because
she did.
Well, she
sued,
did
yeah.
sue them, and then I don't think she won.
No,
but she
she
was a
lost.
writer's assistant, and I know they gave her the speech, because like when you have a room with 12 funny people, or 10 funny and 2 not funny, or whatever it is, whatever the combo is, when you're not coming up with ideas, you're being funny, and you're just kind of riffing, and so they had stuff like where they were talking about people on the show, cast members, like how what did they say about Courtney Cox's vagina, that it had cobwebs and what? It was cavernous. And this woman wound up being offended
probably
and
true.
suing them, but it's like that's not terribly funny, but I could see laughing at that in the room. And that's just what happens, so you try not to be offended. But with Doug and I, there's too many things that made me laugh. He's just a funny dude. Sorry. Anything else?
No, I'll ask you later.
All right.
Whoa, what does that mean? That's a wrap on you.
You already talked about taboos and being offended. What's your take on like the modern comedian apologizing so much these days after they deliver the offensive joke?
Well, I didn't get into it when I think, are you talking about...
Like Tosh and then
yeah,
Dane
you're talking about
Cook
Tosh's
and-
thing? Does everybody know the Tosh
And the
story?
Onion too, right?
Well, what did the Onion get into it for?
They called that adorable.
Was that about the Oscar?
Yeah,
What'd they say?
They dropped. They called her. Yeah.
They called a 9-year-old a cunt. If you. That's why I laughed.
That was a big to-do.
That's a big to-do. What's my feeling on that? Well, I mean, I feel like I covered with the no taboos, and I think if you go to a comedy club, the woman that did the Tosh thing, like what really infuriated me, and I never got into it because you can't win those arguments online. There's no winners in an online argument, as probably most of you have figured that out by now, by getting into online arguments. You can't, you really don't win. So, I mean, but she went to a comedy club, and she's not a big fan of comedy. You know, that was the first thing she said in her blog was, I have never been to one, and I didn't know what to expect, but I think Dane Cook is funny. So already, she said that. Leave me out of this, okay? That's what she said, and Dane Cook was there. Dane Cook was going to be there later on, so she said, well, I'll sit through all these other guys so I can watch Dane Cook. And Tosh, who I think is really funny, good guy, I've known him forever, he didn't even make a rape joke. Somebody else made a rape joke in the audience. And because he was like riffing, he goes, I feel like I'm telling this for people that don't know the whole story, right? And then I'll get to what my feeling on it is. So the real story was he like turns to the audience and goes, hey, anything you guys want me to talk about, right? I think that's what happened. And then somebody yells rape, and he goes, rape's not funny. right? And then he tried to like kind of
Yeah,
find his way around that.
Yeah.
And then this woman got offended and said, rape isn't funny, but he had already said, yeah, no, I agree. And then he goes, wouldn't it be funny if she got raped right now? Right. Right? Which is horrifying, but also
you're
really
all
funny.
laughing. Yeah.
I mean, if I was in the room, I would have been dying. Because that's the funny thing to say. And she got mad. She went home. Like, if you get mad easily, don't go to comedy clubs. Don't read things that are for people that have senses of humor. You know what I mean? That's really my feeling on it. And I just hate that going back to the censor thing, having to apologize for anything. I don't think we should. I understand why he did, because he has a TV show on, and he wants to keep that TV show on, and he wants advertisers to pay to keep that TV show on. No, I don't mean to be cynical, but that's basically why you have to go. And I'm sure it wasn't him. I'm sure he didn't, because knowing the guy and knowing other comics, we don't want to apologize, but it was probably somebody in his team, as they say back home, which makes me throw up. But somebody called him and said, this thing's fucking getting out of hand. You gotta, And I don't think we should have to. The Tracy Morgan thing that happened last year, really inappropriate. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was the same kind of thing where, should he have said that? Probably not. Is it funny? Not really. But he said it, and he should be able to own it and say whatever. You shouldn't be afraid of that. Does that answer everything?
Yeah, I think
cool,
so.
Cool.
I had one more, if that's okay.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, I was curious what your thoughts were on Bill Burr and the alt comedy scene comments that he made on his podcast. Also, if you're familiar.
Oh, did he make fun of the alt comedy scene?
He basically bashed it and called a bunch of the alt comedy scene like pussies that didn't grind through the comedy clubs the way real comedians.
Well, there are those guys, but
Right.
I mean, I don't think he's talking about me, motherfucker.
Well,
So
no.
him, not you. No, I love Bill Burr, but there's that kind of thing has existed. I mean, like all those New York guys, the Colin Quinn guys, and I love a lot of those dudes, but there was a little bit of us versus them with the LA kind of alternative scene. And then now there's a big New York alternative scene, or there has been, like with Upright Citizens Brigade. And I think they think, and I mean, I don't love comics like this that didn't earn it. Like for me with alternative comedy, when they first started calling us alternative comedians, I found it strange because they were talking about Janine Garofalo, and it's like, wait, I knew Janine through the Comedy Channel first, and through standing in front of brick walls and doing, playing the improvs. That's how she got as funny as she was. So like you can start in a coffee house, and so I kind of get Bill Burr's thing, but he did the other way, which a lot of my friends did. I'm totally getting off point, but yeah, I get it. I get why he's mad at that, because sometimes I get mad at people that get, not a name or success, but just they don't have to do all the hard work, right. Like slugging it out like we did in comedy clubs and opening for people that are not funny and having people yell the things that they yelled at me when I was a child.
So make Brian mad and do the easy thing for yourself.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Again, I want
Are
to tell
you like dressed as the guy from I can't
This is
even
how I
get-
dress every day.
Savage Steve Holland, the
That's how I dress every
booger.
day.
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
So, like I told you before when we met earlier, that I really love Nerd Poker.
Uh-huh.
Who's the funniest guy, besides you two, the funniest people you play D&D with? That just cracks you up every time you guys play.
Well, if you listen to the show, Blaine Capatch is one of the funniest humans I know. He's people don't know him, and you should. He was the host of Beat the Geeks. Remember that? And he's written for a bunch of shows that aren't funny. Or
He's a machine gun. The jokes like fly out of him at like 700 rounds per minute.
You need to do more ads. We need to hear. Have him do more ads on, because you say when you guys leave the room.
We do fake ads. We do this podcast called Nerd Poker. Gerry and I play, and it's basically myself and a bunch of friends playing D&D every week. We had a D&D group for 10 years, and and then we got our wives pregnant, 3 of us, which has never derailed another D&D group, I think. And it was all different wives, too. And then so we didn't play for years, and then Earwolf Scott Ackerman came to me and wanted me to do a podcast, and I was like, I turned to Gerry, what should we do? And then we kind of came up with that of, we should just get the game back together, and that's how that is. And Blaine's a funny dude. You should seek him out. He's opening for Drew Carey on the road a lot now, but funny dude. Next.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I like to hear about the writing process and collaboration on Deadpool. I mean, like, is there a lot of give and take with editorial and the big
Marvel really gives us a very free hand, and we work it out where if we can work together, it's great. We'll break stories. What's happening a lot now because of our schedules, he'll be on the road. Sometimes we'll work in a Google document, which you can actually see what the other guy is typing, which is great. And then other times we're passing things back and forth. We write it once for the artist, or really once for the editor. We get his notes. We
and
take that.
His notes have been great. This guy Jordan White.
Yeah, he makes it better. Jordan White gives us great notes. That gets turned over to the artist. In this case, the brilliant Tony Moore. Tony does the pages. We get it back. We write it again for the letterer, because in a lot of cases things are different and better. And then after the letter is done, we do a final punch pass, make sure that each balloon is as funny as it can be. So it gets written and rewritten a bunch, but together. Whether he's playing a date in the Midwest and I'm at home, it all
we
gets
try to
done.
get on Skype, and I try to have my shirt off as much as possible.
Brian recently sent me a picture that hangs out now in the. I have a Gmail account, and it's a piece of your body.
Yeah.
And now
not one of the good ones.
And it's a recent picture. All the recent pictures show up. It's. He's not wearing any clothes.
It's fun to hang out with me. You should become my friend, and
Thanks.
you'll get pictures of my balls.
Hi there.
Hi. Well, that guy asked the question I was going to ask, so I was just wondering if you could, say hi to my friend who couldn't make it here tonight because I'm a special little snowflake who deserves all the attention. So.
What's your friend's name?
I was just kidding, but.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a joke. You're supposed to laugh.
Oh, making fun of the other guy that did that?
Yeah. I was.
That was a while
I know
ago.
you're all thinking it.
Thanks. Hey, man.
Hi. I actually have a couple questions. One, is there any shows out there right now that you would love to write on or be on? And number two, as far as stand-up goes, I'm really new at it. Maybe done it like 5 times. But question is, when you're writing jokes that are kind of around stuff that we all like, which is comic books and science fiction and stuff like that, how do you present that in a way that the average non-geek will find it funny?
Okay, I'll work backwards. I'll answer that one first. Well, now there are comedians, like I travel around the country, and there are nerd comedy nights at comedy clubs, and I would tell those guys, don't just write nerd jokes, write jokes and get better at that. I mean, for me, it took a long time before I kind of found myself on stage, and it was probably 10 years in before I went, oh, I think I can talk about metal on stage, and I think I can throw in a River's Edge reference, or I think I can talk about comic books or all this other stuff that I love. And then, my last 3 records, I talk about Star Wars and how much I hate them. The prequels and the special editions, but I do find a way when I'm working on those jokes, like with the Slayer joke, for instance. I would hold people's hands because I'm playing a lot of regular comedy clubs. I wasn't just doing the alternative rooms. The thing about going back to the alternative room that I've noticed is you can get really comfortable playing those rooms where everybody gets those references because it's a lot of people like us that all like the same shit. You know what I mean? Right. But when you go to comedy clubs, you're going to find a 60-year-old woman with her arms crossed who's never heard of Joss Whedon or the things that you love, and you might hate her for that, and you'd be right. But you have to kind of hold their hand if you expect to do well. I mean, you don't want to lose people all the time. I mean, there's a certain amount of my material where I don't care. There's certain, but I won't do like 5 minutes where I don't care, but I'll throw a 10-second thing in. If you don't get it, that's fine. If you do get it, you're going to like me on another level. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so you got to kind of, I worked with this guy. Anybody know Steve Higgins? Do you know the name? If you're an SNL, if you watch Saturday Night Live, he, when did he start that show? He probably started running that show in 95 or 96. We worked together on the Jon Stewart show, the old Jon Stewart show, before he did the Daily Show. Anybody remember that?
Yeah.
It was
on MTV, right?
Yeah, it was. The writing staff was me, Dave Attell, and a couple other really funny people that are still around. Janine DeTulio, she writes on Metalocalypse now with me. And Steve Higgins and his brother Al Higgins, who later wrote on Malcolm in the Middle and is still in the business. But Steve Higgins said that pure comedy, and when he first told it to me, I was like 23 or whatever, and I was like, well, what are you talking about? You know, and this pre-Mr. Show, this is before I wrote on Mr. Show, and he said to me, he goes, pure comedy to regular people tastes bitter. And so what you need to do is you need to wrap it in something palatable, put it in something that they like. And that sounds, it's kind of, it doesn't make total sense, but you learn that he is right, that you do have to kind of present it in a way, I hope I'm making sense, because that really helped me, that bit of thing of, I can't, you know, like I would write sketches that were about serial killers or whatever, and that was the thing I loved, but I kind of had to find a way in. I had to find a way of holding the audience's hand, if that makes sense, and get them to accept that, you know?
Cool.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. As far as other shows that you would want to be on, or you want to say, hey, can I
mean,
be on your show?
Key and Peele makes me laugh, and there's some stuff on late night. I still watch Letterman every night.
I always wanted to write a South Park. I wish I got to. I wish I got to at least write one, or you know, be in that room. I met those guys years ago, and never. My friend Vernon Chapman got hired, and that was still one show that I wish I could have done some time with them, because I feel like I would have walked out of there even funnier after being around those two guys, because they're two of the funniest dudes working. You know, and if you
going,
see.
Aren't they?
What? They're still going, but yeah, but I don't know. That's one show that I would still like to
awesome.
get a chance to write one.
That.
30 Rock's going away, but 30 Rock I thought was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excuse me? That's what I said. Yeah, it's going away. Yeah.
Hey, we're running
we'll
low on
move on.
time.
Yeah.
Too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to try and do a quick lightning round through these questions, and if we run out of time, let me know.
Okay.
I think we got about 3 minutes.
I'll try and keep it short.
Is there an overall thing that somebody really wishes we covered too before, if you're not going to ask a question? I mean, I don't know.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So as guys who have basically been friends and then started writing together, like advice or pitfalls to avoid like trying to write as a duo with previous history, because you want to preserve your friendships as well as do quality stuff, if you have any input for something like that.
We get along. Like, we don't fight, right? I mean, that's...
No.
And the same shit makes us laugh. Like, sharing a sensibility, sharing a brain is kind of important. But also knowing each other's strengths. I mean, when I write with him, he's better at story than I am. And I've read all the right books. No, I feel you are, man. I do. And I feel like I'm maybe better at writing scenes or writing dialogue or writing jokes. So I think it's important to, you know, it sounds obvious, but like finding each other's strengths and working off those, and then maybe learning from those guys. And the one thing, like going back to like what I learned from Odenkirk, writing in a room with other people is it was really easy to be the comedy police. Like you hear, like for me, I was always that guy when I first started working in writing rooms. I would be like, I was the. Did you guys ever see the South Park episode Simpsons Did It?
Yeah.
Where basically they would start these stories, and then was it Butters or somebody would go, yeah, he would go, Simpsons did it, and I was that guy in the room, and that's where watching that episode, I know that came from them sitting in the room and coming up with funny ideas, and then some asshole going, oh yeah, well, you know, you can't do that. And the same thing going back to like how what makes Louis C.K. funny is finding an angle that no one's ever used. Like, you know, with stand-up and with sketch and everything, like, I hope I'm making sense, because in my head it totally makes sense of like, okay, with Louis C.K., he wrote like a 20-minute chunk on flying. And in the 80s, that was like the hackiest thing you could do, was do any flying material. It's like, you know, the black box jokes and all this, like, what's going on in first class, and you heard all these crap. But what it takes is finding a new angle. And Odenkirk, yeah, here I'm finding my point. Odenkirk was one of the first people that I worked with that would not throw ideas away. He'd try to find what was awesome about that idea, and he'd let it breathe. And if we never found that, then we'd throw it away. But he'd let the bit. If you're familiar, I wrote this sketch called Titanica, and it died in the room. I pitched it, and it died. And the basic idea was a kid loves this band, this metal band, and this metal band has a song called Try Suicide. So the kid tries suicide. And you know, it's based on real things that happened back in the 80s and 90s, and I went too dark. Like the original idea was way too dark, and everybody in the room just went, nah. And Bob was like, wait a second, hold on. And then we talked about it, and he's like, Brian, what's funniest about? What do you think's funny about this idea? And I was like, you know, I got to the core of it. I was like, well, you know, that he follows this, and then his parents want to sue him, and he's like, oh, okay, you know, and we found the way to get it, to make it, going back to the Steve Higgins advice, we found the way to make it palatable. We found the way to make it accessible, and that was his idea and Dino Stamatopoulos' idea of have David Cross, he jumped into a vat of acid up to his head, and now he has a little wet cigar body that we use. We have a puppet, and that's how that became that funny sketch. And it's just through letting the idea breathe and not going, nah, Simpsons did it, or I don't like that, or that's not funny, that's too dark, that's too stupid. Like, no, letting the idea go around, because you've got all these funny people in the room. Let them all hit it, you know what I mean, and make it funnier.
And we have to leave you with the image of a kid jumping into a vat of acid. The room is not ours anymore, but we really appreciate you guys coming out. Cool. Thanks. We're here.